United stands. This is the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conference reaction for Everton versus Manchester United, and some very, very interesting topics out of this press conference from Ole today. A few things I want to talk about. I mean, there's one question about Anthony Martial that I just found ridiculous, and it typifies the issue in modern football and journalism and the media, the way they go after certain players, whereas other players get left alone. I mean, basically, Anthony Martial was named as a player that maybe needs a reality check. No mention of Rashford, no mention of Lingard, despite Rashford and Lingard playing worse than Martial for a longer period of time. But Martial's the one who needs the reality check. We'll talk about what Ole said in relation to that. Also talking about the massive implications of these next few games in the league for Manchester United. But a bit of a hint on the summer. I want to go straight in on this. I didn't think I would be. But let's talk about this straight away. So there were questions about the summer, and one of the better questions was in relation to Jose Mourinho last summer. Obviously suffered a very frustrating transfer summer in relation to the players that he wanted and what he got, and he made that very, very clear at the start of the season, week after week after week. And Ole was asked if he was fearful that he may have that same frustrating summer where he doesn't get everything that he wants to get in. Now, you can read it one or two ways, and I would hope that, to read it negative is the wrong thing to do. But Ole basically said, I don't think that we will be having a frustrating summer. We're realistic as to what can be done, and it's a step-by-step process. And he mentioned like signing 7 players, that would be great, but it's not going to happen. And that he can't wait for the pre-season so he can get these players back, and they understand what it's all about. Now, my interpretation of that is we're realistic and it's step by step. That to me is he knows that he's not getting loads of money, and he knows that it's going to be a transfer window by gradual. He's not going to get the 300 million that we think he should get. He's not going to get the 5 or 6 players coming in that he should get, and the 5 or 6 players kicked out that he should get. I think, as we were talking about last night, step by step, realistic. This to me means 2 or 3 coming in, 2 or 3 going out, and we know that's not enough. That's not enough. If you put 2 or 3 players into this squad and you take 2 or 3 players away, we will not be challenging for the title next year. I don't think we should be challenging for the title next year anyway, but I don't really actually personally agree with step by step. The only reason we would be doing step by step and realistic is because of the people we've got owning the club not loosening the purse strings. If you were Manchester City, or even with Liverpool, even Liverpool now, look at what they did last summer. They went out and got what they needed to get very, very, very quickly. There's no excuse for Manchester United to be realistic or take things step by step. But I think Ole is aware that that's what he's going to have to do, because that's what the people above him have told him to do. Bring back Fellaini, in my opinion, says LaRusso. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And welcome Evan14, our latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Sell Pogba, says Mr. Smooth. Well, this goes back to what we were saying last night. Why would you sell Pogba or De Gea willingly when you know that we're not going to be doing masses of deals this summer? It's going to be... I think we'll start next season already knowing we're not going to be anything more than fighting for 4th place again, because I don't think 2 or 3 signings makes us any better than what we are, and especially depending on who you're losing. We already know Herrera's one, so Herrera goes and you sign 2 or 3 players. Does it really make us any stronger? Welcome Ali Matar, latest member of the United Stand. Would you seriously, I would go on a rampage if we don't get at least 200 million, says Reaper. Well, we'll have to just wait and see. You can interpret it many different ways, but I personally thought, it's quite interesting that he said that it's going to be a step-by-step process, and we're realistic as to what can be done this summer. So that could have been part of the, at the end of the day, the people in power at Manchester United is not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It is not the players. The people in charge of Manchester United are the Glazers, and the Glazers man in charge of Manchester United is Ed Woodward. They're the people who make the decisions about how much we're going to spend this summer and how much Alexis Sanchez is a prime example. Everyone's like, let's get rid of him. He's rolling back into Manchester in June, early July for the pre-season. You ain't moving him off. And while you've got him, we've still got big problems at this club. But that's the future. The now is the game against Everton. And he made a very, very good point as well. He said that I've lost 2 league games. Well, Wolves and Arsenal. We've lost a lot of games recently, but actually in the league, since I've been here, we've lost 2 league games. And realistically, we shouldn't have lost either of those. Arsenal, we had chances to put the game away early on. And Wolves, we had chances and they lost. But then again, we've had other games where maybe we shouldn't have won. And maybe we should have drawn. He says that's football, that's the way it is. But what he did say, and he was right to do it, he said that when you look at where we were when I took over at the start, in the middle of December, and when you look at where we are now, I don't think any Manchester United fan wouldn't have grabbed this opportunity with 2 hands, because we weren't in a top 4 race when I came in, and we are in one now, and we've got to grab this opportunity that's there in front of us, which I think is absolutely spot on. I think he 100% is right about that. So yeah, intrigued by what's going to happen over the next few games. There is no room for manoeuvrability in relation to the Everton game at all. We have to win that game. Let's talk about what was said about Martial then, because I find this absolutely disgusting. Welcome to Bradley Davidson, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Remember, you can do that by just clicking the join button. So he was asked a direct question about whether Anthony Martial is one of those players that needs a reality check. The highs are great, but the lows are quite frustrating. Now, in summary, that's not a bad question, because Martial has been playing very badly lately. But this is what irritates me, and it probably doesn't irritate you, but it irritates me. Why is it always Pogba? Why is it always Martial? Why is it, why are those 2 players always the one that, symbolise, oh, they're lazy, oh, look at their lack of form? And I think this time is probably the worst one, because, as I said before, Martial isn't playing very well at the moment and hasn't played well for the last month. But Rashford hasn't played well for the last 2 months, and Lingard hasn't played well for the last 3 months. But Rashford and Lingard don't ever get mentioned, or get the question mentioned about them. Oh, because they're both English and they're both from the youth setup. I think it's probably because they're both English, and that's the way the British media is. Oh, we can't slag off one of our own players. Let's go for Martial because he's French, and it pisses me off, because to highlight Anthony Martial as being one of the players that needs a reality check, I think it's really wrong, because if you know anything about Manchester United, you would know, yeah, Martial's not playing well, but if you're just going to highlight him, you've got to highlight Jesse Lingard and Rashford, because they've been playing worse for longer. But anyway, what was Ollie's response to it? And fair play, he did say it's not just about Martial, it's about Rashford, it's about Lukaku, it's about Sanchez. They all know what's expected of them, and they've all got to deliver, and it's up to them to do that. So I thought that was really good what he said. But in relation to Martial, he did answer the question. He said he's a massive talent. He's got a big contract at the club, and we want him to keep working on that. But yeah, it was a little bit frustrating when I heard that. I just thought, why are we going after Martial again? It's just poor journalism, and it shows a lack of knowledge of what's going on at Manchester United to just highlight one player who actually hasn't been as bad as other players have been, who just seem to get a free ride. I mean, to be honest with you, I personally really, really like Martial, as people know, and I do like Marcus Rashford, and I wouldn't personally sell Jesse Lingard either, but I find it hilarious the way Lingard just has had a free ride for 3 months. He's been abysmal for 3 months. Like, if he scores against Everton at the weekend, everyone will be calling him Messi Lingard again, but he's been rubbish for 3 months, and nobody wants to talk about it. He just gets ignored. Oh, he's a youth. He's all right. He's potential. He's 27 years of age, in his prime, should be consistently putting in 8, 9 out of 10 performances, because that's what you do when you're 27, 28, 29. You're at the peak of your game. You should be influencing games, and you should be leading the team by performance. And he's not. I don't know why that's not. I don't know why that's not on the agenda for fans, the club, everybody, but he just seems to get away with it. And I personally bring it up because I, as a player, I quite rate him. I think he's important to the United squad. And I think it's abundantly clear that there's some issue with Lingard, but nobody seems to want to discuss it. I mean, he is playing ridiculously bad. Has he got some issue? I don't know. James Timmy says Klopp got little money until last summer, so they took 4 years to be title challengers. Pep took 2 with oil money, so we judge Ollie on the money he gets. Yes, James. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that comment. I think that this is why this summer, and you're not stupid. Most United fans aren't stupid. If this summer Ole Gunnar Solskjaer only gets 150 million, there'll be a lot of frustration and there'll be a lot of anger, but it won't be aimed at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because we know the problems at Manchester United, and it's going to be abundantly clear to us as fans that if he has to start the season with a lot of players that are still here now, and he has to start the season with only two or three players brought in at ridiculous, imagine if they just give him Costas Manolas and fucking Gareth Bale or something like that. It'd be like, get rid, whatever. What's he supposed to do with that? A finished bloody Welsh player and Costas Manolas, whippy do. What are we supposed to do with that? But so we will know ourselves straight away whether he is being given the backing that he requires. The only reason I think that I don't even want to talk about that anyway. Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking, because I don't want to say I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, what I was thinking is, under what circumstances next season could fans justly start criticising Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? And I think if the team is performing as it is now, just sort of stuttering through results, fighting for fourth, then I think that's consistent, isn't it? And if they don't give him the money, that's where we're going to be. If we're mid-table because we're playing crap football, then I think Ollie would get some criticism. If he gets 400 million and 7 players and we're still fighting for fourth, I think he might get a bit of criticism. Personally, what I think is going to happen is we're going to have a season like this season, next season, where we're just fighting for fourth place because we haven't done enough. I think I can see people like Juan Mata being here next year who shouldn't be here. I can see, we already know that Phil Jones and Ashley Young and Chris Smalling are here next year. I think Lukaku and Sanchez will still be here next year. So you can see the same sort of problems being here. But that's for next year. That's for next year. Who in our team would walk into our rivals team, says Matthew Edlin. Maybe two. I think De Gea on form would get into most teams in the top 6 in England. He should get into all of them on form. I mean, Man City and Liverpool fans will of course be happy with Ederson and Alisson, but reality is De Gea is a better goalkeeper than those two. He's the best in the world on his day. And Pogba might force his way in, but I don't think a lot of players, individual clubs might say, yeah, we'd like Lindelof and everything, but we haven't got many, and that's the problem. And we certainly haven't got enough leaders. He was asked about digesting the Barcelona game. I didn't actually agree with what Ollie said about this, actually, which is fine. You don't have to agree with everything. He said that we've got to accept it and move on. Which I agree with, but he said there's no shame in going out to Barcelona. It was a great start. We conceded 2 goals. And then it was game over. But I was very pleased with the attitude after that and the fact that the players stuck together. You see, I disagree with that. I think there was shame in going out to Barcelona because tactically we got it wrong. At home, we showed them too much respect and we should have took a lead to the new camp and we took a loss. And in the second leg, I thought we started off really, really well. They scored 2 goals and we downed tools and dropped our heads. So I disagree with that. But it's interesting, isn't it? He's a manager. I'm a fan. You've got your own opinions. But I personally think that I don't think we did do ourselves proud after we went down 2-0 against Barcelona. I think what we saw in that first 15 minutes disintegrated. I think the players lacked belief. I think they lacked leadership. And I think their heads dropped. And we've seen it time and time again. So I disagree with that. I wasn't proud of United, what they did after the Barcelona 2 goals the other night. I was proud of the first 15 minutes, but I think they dropped their heads after that. And I think we could have done more over 2 legs, but it's gone now, and Ollie's right, you need to move on. We do need to move on. The focus is on top 4. He said Herrera's back in training, which is good. Now, whether that means Herrera's back ready for Everton, I don't know. I personally would have him back for Everton and not bother for Man City. I don't see the point in Herrera playing against Man City. I don't think we're going to beat Man City. As an early thing, anything can happen in a derby, and we're a bit like it used to be all those years ago when we were good and Man City were shit, and every now and again Man City would get a result. Of course it can happen in a derby, but that Man City game, I think Everton's more important that we get the 3 points. Man City is like, maybe we can get a draw out of that. Let's take care of itself. But we've got to beat Everton. Herrera always plays well against Everton. I don't know whether he'll be back ready or not, but massively important. Really need him in the next few weeks. I think we're a better team with Herrera in it. He was asked about Chelsea, Spurs and Arsenal still being in Europe and whether that's a boost for United. He said, well, it could be a boost for them. He said, we'd love to have been in a semi-final of the Champions League. They could take it as a boost. It's interesting. You can flip it one of 2 ways. I personally think that we are Ramsey looks like he's out for the season now for Arsenal. So that's a player they've lost by playing in the Europa League. I think that's when it becomes advantageous for us, is if fatigue and injury start to hit our rivals, that could help us. But I think Arsenal and Chelsea have got a week off next week. We've got 3 big games in 7 days. So, is that advantageous to them? Yes, it is. Look, we'll have to just wait and see. But as I said before, it doesn't matter whether Spurs, Chelsea and Arsenal are in Europe or not if we lose to Everton, because we've got to win our games to put the pressure on them. That's step one. He said that standards haven't dropped since I was given the job. Players know what we expect. And the contrast from De Gea to know anyone would have took it. I don't know what that means. He was asked a question about recruitment, actually, which I think was a bit about director of football. And he said, he was asked if he had any concerns about it. He said no. I think people are critical of the setup at Manchester United, don't understand the setup at Manchester United. He said, we've got scouts all over the world. We sign what we think is right for us in relation to them being a good fit, a good price and a good age. And we're confident what we're doing in relation to that. The only thing I would say about that is that I've said this before. Yes, United have got a massive scouting network. Yes, United will be looking to buy players that fit Manchester United. That sounds like a great answer that, I'm not too concerned about a director of football being in place. But actually, my interpretation of that is you've got a great scouting network. You've got scouts all over the world presenting players that they think could be useful for Manchester United. That's brilliant. But this is why you need a director of football, because this is where that information from on that scouting network goes to the director of football, and they're knowledgeable and they make the decision. The problem at the moment is you've got this great scouting network, but who's getting the information and making the decision? Is it Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or is it Ed Woodward? You know what I mean? That's why I think that answer is good if you trust who the person who's making the decisions are. Because you can have the best scouting network in the world, but if the person making the decisions on that on the information they get is Ed Woodward, I don't think that's good. If it's Solskjaer, it's better. If it's a director of football and it's a good director of football, it's even better. So that's why I think that a director of football is absolutely imperative, because there's so many rumours around United, and I don't know what goes on, but what I did say is when Mourinho isn't getting the players that he wants last summer, who's making those decisions? I think Gary Neville hinted about it as well. If Mourinho is wanting a player and somebody's saying, no, you're having this player, that can only be Ed Woodward. There's nobody in Manchester United Football Club above the manager who can make that decision other than Ed Woodward. And what's his football background? What is it? Is he a Manchester United fan? Is he a Liverpool fan? I don't care. But what's his football background? Football manager? FIFA? I don't know. What is his football background? And that's the danger. And that's why we need a director of football. Because, you know what? How dangerous would it be if you've got all these scouting networks going, we found this 21-year-old from Colombia. He looks like he could be the next Faustino Asprilla. He plays number 9. He's got a bit of an attitude problem, but I think if we brought him into Manchester United and integrated into what this club's all about, the passion he's got, I think he'd be absolutely great. And then that information goes to, I don't know, Ed Woodward, and he goes, well, I don't think that's a good signing for us. This is the thing, we don't know what's going on at United, and I think this is why we need a director of football, because we need to have, well, we don't need to, but I think it'd be nice as a fan base to have some clarity as to the structure at United. And I think a manager cannot be, and clearly isn't the person we already know the manager at Manchester United is not in charge of transfers, because if you've got Jose Mourinho, whose Wikipedia page is pretty much one of the best managers in the world, but he's not in charge of transfers, it can only be Ed Woodward in charge of transfers. There is nobody else in that situation. When Mourinho was here and he's not in charge of transfers, he's given a list to somebody. He gave that list to Ed Woodward, and Ed Woodward's going, no, you're not having this sort of player, I'll give you this player. Well, who's advising Ed Woodward? It's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. Anyway, Richard Duff says, can you stop mentioning that Portuguese fraud on this channel? Look, I'm no fan of Mourinho, as people know, but I think when we're talking about the transfer process at Manchester United and how it works, because we still don't have a director of football, I think you learn a lot about the process and the structure at Manchester United from what Mourinho was saying in the summer. He wasn't in charge of transfers. Somebody else was, and I think we all know who. But yeah, all in all, it's all about this game against Everton at the weekend, isn't it? I am doing FIFA today. It'll be at 1:30 Canal. It basically is my last 2 games of my FIFA Manchester United career mode. I am 2 points clear with 2 games to go. It's squeaky bum time. Can I win the league? I've never won it before on Legendary. So that will be at 1:30 on That's Football for anybody who wants to watch that. And I will be live at 8 o'clock tonight on here. Herrera back in training, possible to be on the bench for the Everton game, says PS2. I'd love him to be back. I think he's so important to United. I'd put McTominay on the bench straight away. Heard Real have got £500 million to spend, says Mohit Singh. Well, this is the contrast, isn't it? You've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, United legend, desperate for the job at any price. You've got Zidane, ex-Real Madrid manager, 3 Champions Leagues in a row, walks away from Real Madrid. Who do you think's got the bigger transfer budget? The man who would do the job at any price, or the man who will only come back if you give me a load of money? Of course Zidane's got 500 million, but Solskjaer might only have 100 because he wants that job so much. He loves this club so much. He's got no negotiations. He's like, yeah, I just want this job. You're offering me the job. Oh my God, that's great. How much am I getting to spend? We're only giving you 100 million. Oh, great. I'll still take it. This was something we discussed before. I want Solskjaer to get the job. I'm not changing my mind about that, but we did discuss this before. If Solskjaer didn't get the job and United had to go for Pochettino would have probably said, I'll only take the job if you're going to give me 250 million. I don't think Solskjaer says that. So it's going to be very interesting this summer. Very interesting indeed. Would you bring back Chicharito, says Entai Zimmer? Not really. I think that's too far, to be honest. I think it's too far to do that. I'd like him at the club, but Chimo says Everton are a difficult side to beat. Very, very difficult. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting game on Sunday. Anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. Make sure you smash a like on video. I'll be back again at 8 o'clock tonight on this channel, and I think we'll pick up the transfer stuff a little bit because there's more to be had from that conversation. And I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.